Batman and Robin is a 1997 American superhero film based on the DC Comics characters Batman and Robin by Bill Finger and Bob Kane. It is the fourth and final installment of Warner Bros.' initial Batman film series and a sequel to Batman Forever. Directed by Joel Schumacher and written by Akiva Goldsman, it stars George Clooney as Bruce Wayne and Batman, and Chris O'Donnell as Dick Grayson and Robin, alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger, Uma Thurman, and Alicia Silverstone. The film follows the titular characters as they oppose Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy, while struggling to keep their partnership together. Welcome back to DC Movie Rewind, where we look back at every live-action DC movie. Today we are discussing Batman and Robin. With the box office success of Batman Forever in June 1995, Warner Bros. Immediately commissioned a sequel. They hired director Joel Schumacher and writer Akiva Goldsman to reprise their duties the following August, and decided it was best to fast-track production for a June 1997 target release date, which was a break from the usual 3-year gap between films. Schumacher wanted to pay homage to the work of the classic Batman comic books of his childhood. The storyline of Batman and Robin was conceived by Schumacher and Goldsman during pre-production on A Time to Kill. Portions of Mr. Freeze's backstory were based on the Batman the Animated Series episode Heart of Ice, written by Paul Dini. Goldsman, however, expressed concerns about the script during pre-production discussions with Schumacher. Schumacher stated that he was given the mandate by the studio to make the film more toyetic, even when compared to Batman Forever. The studio reportedly included toy companies in pre-production meetings. Mr. Freeze's blaster was specifically designed by toy manufacturers. Batman co-creator Bob Kane acted as an official consultant and was heavily involved in the production. He gave input on the film's script as well as on set. While Chris O'Donnell reprised the role of Robin, Val Kilmer decided not to reprise the role of Batman for Batman Forever. Schumacher admitted that he had difficulty working with Kilmer on Batman Forever. Schumacher would later go on to say that Kilmer wanted to work on the island of Dr. Moreau because Marlon Brando was cast in the film. Kilmer said that he was not aware of the fast-track production and was already committed to Heat in The Saint. David Duchovny stated he was considered for the role of Batman, joking that the reason why he was not chosen was that his nose was too big. George Clooney's casting as Batman was suggested by Warner Bros. Executive Bob Daly. Schumacher originally had interest in casting William Baldwin in Kilmer's place, but chose Clooney after seeing his performance in From Dusk Till Dawn. Schumacher felt that Clooney strongly resembled the character from the comic books. Schumacher also believed that Clooney could provide a lighter interpretation of the character than Kilmer and Michael Keaton. As a consequence of time constraints, the costume department repurposed the costume worn by Kilmer in Batman Forever for the third act of the film. Ed Harris, Anthony Hopkins, and reportedly Patrick Stewart were considered for the role of Mr. Freeze before the script was rewritten to accommodate Arnold Schwarzenegger's casting. Schumacher later denied that Stewart was ever considered. Schumacher decided that Mr. Freeze had to be big and strong, like he was chiseled out of a glacier. Mr. Freeze's armor was made by armorer Terry English, who estimated that the costume cost him $1.5 million to develop and make. To prepare for the role, Schwarzenegger wore a bald cap after declining to shave his head, wore a blue LED in his mouth, and had acrylic paint applied. The blue LEDs had to be wrapped in balloons after battery acid started leaking into Schwarzenegger's mouth. His prosthetic makeup and wardrobe took 6 hours to apply each day. The extensive time spent on Schwarzenegger's costume significantly restricted his shooting time, as his contract was limited to 12 work hours a day. Schwarzenegger was paid a $25 million salary for the role. Besides Uma Thurman, Demi Moore, Sharon Stone, and Julia Roberts were considered for the role of Poison Ivy. Schumacher first became aware of Thurman through an earlier role as Venus in The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Thurman ultimately took the role of Poison Ivy because she liked the femme fatale characterization of the character. Alicia Silverstone was the only choice for the role of Batgirl. Before filming, she was reported to have lost at least 10 pounds for the role. Silverstone would later recount the body shaming she encountered during promotion of the film. The Batgirl in this story is different from the Batgirl from the comics. This Batgirl is Alfred's niece instead of Commissioner Gordon's daughter. Bane was portrayed by Robert Swenson, who became Poison Ivy's bodyguard and muscle, named Antonio Diego. Superman is mentioned by Batman in his first line of dialogue at the start of the movie, a nod to Tim Burton's Superman, which was currently in development. Batman's joke, "This is why Superman works alone," marked the only time the character is acknowledged in the Burton and Schumacher film series, though whether the reference means Superman literally coexists with this version of Batman, or Bruce is making a cultural reference, is not made explicit. Now, let's talk about the production.
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
The movie was produced by Warner Bros. And distributed by Warner Bros. It was directed by Joel Schumacher once again. The movie was written by Akiva Goldsman. The movie was also produced by Peter McGregor Scott. Principal photography was set to commence in August 1996, but did not begin until September. Batman and Robin finished filming in late January 1997, 2 weeks ahead of the shooting schedule. The shooting schedule allowed Clooney to simultaneously work on the television series ER without any scheduling conflicts. O'Donnell said that despite spending much time with Schwarzenegger off set and during promotion of the film, they did not work a single day together during production. This was achieved by using stand-ins when one of the actors was unavailable. Stunt coordinator Alex Field taught Silverstone to ride a motorcycle so that she could play Batgirl. Filming was temporarily halted in the fall of 1996 when Mr. Freeze's blaster prop disappeared from the film set. A police investigation was subsequently opened, culminating in the raid of a film memorabilia collector's home. High public interest in the film caused security issues on set. According to producer Peter McGregor Scott, paparazzi regularly disrupted the set, and photographs of Schwarzenegger taken during filming sold for $10,000. O'Donnell complained about the Robin costume, saying that it was more involved and less comfortable than the one he wore in Batman Forever, with a glued-on mask that caused sweat to pool on his face. Several different stunt doubles were used for the roles of Batman, Robin, and Mr. Freeze. Some specialized in ice skating, aerial gymnastics, and driving. The film was shot at Warner Bros. Studios in Burbank, California. The grounds of Grayson Mansion were used for scenes taking place at Wayne Manor. Part of the film was also shot in Vienna, Austria, Montreal, Quebec, and Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Although miniatures and computer-generated elements were used for some scenes, large full-scale sets were constructed, including Gotham City covered in ice. For scenes featuring people frozen by Mr. Freeze's ice ray, life-size mannequins covered in fake ice were created. Several different materials were tested for the faux ice before settling on a combination of fiber resin. According to production designer Barbara Ling, the ice effects alone took half a year to create. Rhythm and Hughes Studios and Pacific Data Images created the visual effects sequences, with John Dykstra and Andrew Adamson credited as the visual effects supervisors. Batman and Robin featured 450 individual visual effects shots, 150 more than Batman Forever. Motion capture was used to animate digital stunt doubles. For a scene featuring sky surfing, the department recorded the motion of a skyboarder in a wind tunnel at a military base in North Carolina. Elliot Goldenthal returned to score Batman and Robin after collaborating with Schumacher on Batman Forever. The soundtrack features a variety of genres by various bands and performers, showcasing alternative rock on the lead single The End is the Beginning is the End by the Smashing Pumpkins, and with the songs Lazy Eye by Goo Goo Dolls and R.E.M's Revolution. R&B singer R. Kelly wrote Gotham City for the soundtrack, which was featured in the end credits and was chosen as one of the singles, reaching the top 10 in the United States and the United Kingdom. Eric Benet and Michelle Nigdencello also contributed R&B songs. Also included was the single Look Into My Eyes by the hip-hop group Bone Thugs and Harmony, which reached the top 5. Other songs featured included electronic dance elements, including those by Moloko and Arcana. The soundtrack was released on May 27, 1997, 2 weeks and 3 days ahead of the film's premiere in the United States. The orchestral score for the film has never been commercially released. The End is the Beginning is the End won a Grammy Award for Best Hard Rock Performance at the 40th Annual Grammy Awards.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
The theatrical trailer for Batman and Robin debuted on the February 19, 1997 episode of Entertainment Tonight. Warner Bros. Spent $125 million to market and promote the film, in addition to its $160 million production budget. Batman and Robin had its premiere on June 12, 1997 in Westwood, Los Angeles. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, George Clooney, Chris O'Donnell, Uma Thurman, and Alicia Silverstone. The film marked the United Kingdom's then biggest and most expensive movie premiere. The event was held at Battersea Power Station in London, the building decorated to look like Gotham City and Wayne Manor. Expected to be among the tentpoles of the summer movie season, the film opened in the United States on June 20, 1997, in 2,934 theaters, where it remained for an average of approximately 6.2 weeks. The film was released on DVD 4 months later, on October 22, 1997. A special edition DVD was released in 2005 that included a documentary series about the production of the film series, Shadows of the Bat, the cinematic saga of the Dark Knight. Batman and Robin was released on June 20, 1997, in the United States and Canada, grossing $42,872,605 in its opening weekend. That made it the third highest opening weekend gross of 1997, behind Men in Black and The Lost World Jurassic Park, and the seventh highest non-holiday opening weekend of all time as of its release. The film would hold the record for having the highest opening weekend for a Schwarzenegger film until 2003, when it was surpassed by Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines. Its opening weekend gross also remained Clooney's highest until the release of Gravity in 2013. It reached the #1 spot at the box office during its opening weekend, beating out My Best Friend's Wedding and Speed 2: Cruise Control. This would become Schwarzenegger's most recent film to achieve this feat for 5 years until Collateral Damage opened in 2002. Batman and Robin declined by 63% in its second week, which was credited to poor word of mouth and early competition with Face Off, Hercules, and Men in Black. In the UK, it had the second highest opening ever behind Independence Day with a gross of £4,942,566, or $8.2 million, for the weekend. The film grossed $107.4 million in the United States and Canada and $130.9 million internationally, coming to a worldwide total of $238.3 million. It grossed substantially less than the previous film in the series and finished outside of the top 10 films of 1997. With a production budget of $125 to $160 million, the film was considered to have underperformed at the box office, although it was estimated to have at least broken even. Schumacher criticized prejudicial pre-release buzz online and false news reports as a cause for the film's poor commercial performance. Warner Bros. Acknowledged Batman and Robin's shortcomings in the domestic market, but pointed out its success in other markets. It had a budget of $125 to $160 million and made $238.3 million in the box office. It currently has an 11% critic score and a 16% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, a 3.8 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 29 Metacritic score. The film was nominated for a whopping 9 Razzie Awards, including Worst Picture, Worst Supporting Actor for both Chris O'Donnell and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Worst Supporting Actress for both Alicia Silverstone and Uma Thurman, in which Alicia Silverstone won, Worst Screen Couple for George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell, Worst Remake or Sequel, Worst Director for Joel Schumacher, Worst Screenplay for Akiva Goldsman, Worst Original Song for Billy Corgan's The End is the Beginning is the End, and Worst Reckless Disregard for Human Life in Public Property. Huh.
6 million.
7 million. Never leave the cave without it.
Several Six Flags amusement parks introduced new roller coasters themed to the film. Batman and Robin the Chiller opened at Six Flags Great Adventure in 1997, and a Mr. Freeze themed roller coaster opened at both Six Flags Over Texas and Six Flags St. Louis in 1998. Taco Bell launched a $20 million promotional campaign for the film, selling Batman-themed cups, collector toys, and figurines. Themed trading cards produced by Fleer and Skybox International were also sold, some signed by Clooney, Schwarzenegger, Thurman, Silverstone, O'Donnell, and Schumacher. A tie-in video game developed by Probe Entertainment was released for the PlayStation on August 5, 1998, to mixed reviews. The year prior, a video game for the TigerGame.com was based on the film. But Batman and Robin is considered to be one of the worst superhero films and among the worst films ever made. In 2009, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige said that Batman and Robin may be the most important comic book film ever made, and that it was so bad that it demanded a new way of doing things and created the opportunity to make X-Men and Spider-Man in a way that respected the source material to a higher degree. In an interview with Vice, 20 years after its release, Schumacher apologized for the film while taking full responsibility for its poor reputation. Retrospectively, Clooney has spoken critically of and apologized for his involvement in the film.
I always apologize for that.
In 2015, while promoting Disney's Tomorrowland at New York Comic Con, Clooney said that he had met former Batman actor Adam West and apologized to him for the film. In late 2020, he told Howard Stern that it was physically painful to watch his work in the role. In 2021, Clooney said he refused to let his wife Amal watch the film. Conversely, in an interview with Empire in 2012, Schwarzenegger stated that, despite its poor reception, he did not regret making the film. Similarly, 25 years after its theatrical release, Thurman described her work on the film as a fantastic experience. The nipples seen on the characters' costumes, first appearing in Batman Forever and accentuated for Batman and Robin at Schumacher's request, remain among the most defining aspects of the film. Recounting his involvement with the film, costume designer Jose Fernandez stated that he was opposed to sharpening the nipples, calling them ridiculous. Clooney's screen-worn suit was put up for auction by Heritage Auctions in 2022 with a starting bid of $40,000. A previous owner had estimated it to be worth $100,000 in 2006 when Clooney was considered to be at the height of his career. The suit sold for $57,500. In the 2009 film Watchmen, director Zack Snyder and comic book artist Dave Gibbons chose to parody the molded muscle and nipple batsuit design from Batman and Robin for the Ozymandias costume. The film is referenced in the Batman the Brave and the Bold episode Legends of the Dark Might, when Batmite briefly uses his powers to transform Batman's costume into the same suit shown in Schumacher's Batman films before declaring it too icky. 26 years after the release of Batman and Robin, Clooney made a cameo appearance as Bruce Wayne in the 2023 DC Extended Universe superhero film The Flash. Clooney was asked to reprise the role when the film was already in post-production, agreeing to join after seeing a cut of the film. Filming took place in secret 6 months before the release and lasted half a day.
Hey, Barry.
No, where's... You... No, you can't. You're not Batman.
What's wrong with you?
Ah. Ah.
During the filming of Batman and Robin, Warner Bros. Was impressed with the dailies, prompting them to immediately hire Schumacher to return as director for his third film, the fifth in the franchise. However, Goldsman turned down an offer to write the script. In late 1996, Warner Bros. And Schumacher hired Mark Protosevich to write the script for a fifth Batman film. A projected mid-1999 release date was announced. Schumacher said he planned to revisit a darker storytelling approach, contradicting a Los Angeles Times piece that claimed he would continue the direction of his other Batman films. Titled Batman Unchained, Protasevich's 150-page script featured the Scarecrow as the main villain, who, through the use of his fear toxin, resurrects the Joker as a hallucination in Batman's mind. Harley Quinn would appear as a supporting character, written as the Joker's daughter. The film would have revolved around Wayne's efforts to confront figures of his tormented past, chiefly the Scarecrow, Harley Quinn, and ultimately the Joker, through a drug-induced hallucination. In the film's final scene, Wayne is besieged by a swarm of bats as a symbol of triumph over his fears. Warner Bros. Cast Coolio to play Scarecrow, introducing the character in a cameo in Batman and Robin. Schumacher approached Nicolas Cage to portray the Scarecrow while he was filming The Face-Off, and Courtney Love was considered for Harley Quinn. Schumacher said he begged the studio for him to do the Dark Knight Returns story for the fifth film, but they wanted to keep the family-friendly toyetic thing. Clooney, O'Donnell, Silverstone, and Coolio were set to reprise the roles of Batman, Robin, Batgirl, and Scarecrow. It was hoped that the villains from previous films would make cameo appearances in the hallucinations caused by Scarecrow, culminating with Jack Nicholson reprising the role of the Joker. Following the poor critical and financial reception of Batman and Robin, Clooney vowed never to reprise his role, and Warner Bros. Canceled any future Batman films, including Schumacher's planned Batman Unchained. In a 2012 interview with Access Hollywood, O'Donnell claimed that a spin-off centered around Robin was planned, but eventually scrapped due to Batman and Robin's poor commercial performance. Around the same time, another project titled Batman Dark Knight was approved by Warner Bros. From a script conceived by novice writers Lee Shapiro and Stephen Wise. Shapiro and Wise pitched to the studio on learning that they were contemplating a new direction for Batman. The story was inspired by The Dark Knight Returns, featuring Wayne, disillusioned by crime fighting, retreating from the public, and encouraging Grayson to pursue college. Grayson has an adversarial relationship with Professor Jonathan Crane, the civilian persona of Scarecrow, who kidnaps and tortures Grayson in psychological experiments in Arkham Asylum. Man-Bat features in Dark Knight as a secondary villain whose crimes are erroneously blamed on Batman, luring Wayne out of hiding. By 2001, Warner Bros. Brought on Jeff Robinov to commence plans for a reboot, ending all active development of the original Batman series. The Scarecrow would be in the next Batman film, Batman Begins. The Batman OnStar commercials were a series of 6 television commercials featuring Batman, created by ad agency Campbell Ewald and based on the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher Batman film series, airing from 2000 to the beginning of 2002. They were able to utilize the Batmobile that was featured in the 2 Tim Burton-directed Batman films. Also featured in the OnStar commercials was composer Danny Elfman's score from the films. The stunt coordinator was Alex Daniels, who was already a veteran of the Batman franchise, having done stunts on Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, on which he was also a stunt coordinator. According to Bruce Thomas, the actor who played Batman in the ads, much of the crew working on the commercials had also worked on the Batman films. In addition to set, costume, and prop details, DC provided access to footage from the films. Michael Gow also reprises his role as Alfred Pennyworth one last time in the OnStar ads. The character of Robin would appear again in film as Robin John Blake 15 years later in 2012's The Dark Knight Rises. Dick Grayson is alluded to in the DC Extended Universe films Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice and Suicide Squad. By February 2017, a film centered around Dick Grayson's Nightwing was in development, with Chris McKay and Bill Dubuque signed on as director and screenwriter respectively. Although the script was nearing its final draft, McKay said in 2021 that the project was delayed due to DC having other priorities, but he also reaffirmed his intentions to still make the film. He also said that the film could be reworked to remove its connections to the DCEU continuity. The project was ultimately cancelled in August 2023. The Damian Wayne incarnation of Robin will appear in the DC Universe film The Brave and the Bold. Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Tim Drake appear in the Titans TV series, respectively portrayed by Brenton Thwaites, Curran Walters, and Jay Lecurgo. Additionally, Carrie Kelly, Stephanie Brown, and Duke Thomas make uncredited cameo appearances. Carrie Kelly appears in Gotham Knights, portrayed by Navia Robinson. By November 2008, a television prequel series called The Graysons for the CW, centered around Dick Grayson, with Kelly Saunders and Brian Peterson writing and executive producing alongside with MCG and Phil Johnson, was nixed by Jeff Robinov, who decided to develop other projects instead. The character of Batgirl was intended to appear in a self-titled film in 2022, portrayed by Leslie Grace, before it was cancelled due to cost-cutting measures at Warner Bros. The film would have had Michael Keaton reprising his role as Bruce Wayne in Batman. Before the film's cancellation, Grace and Margot Robbie both expressed interest in a crossover between Batgirl and Robbie's Harley Quinn. Barbara Gordon as Oracle appears in the Birds of Prey TV series, portrayed by Dina Meyer. Meyer later reprised that role in this Arrowverse crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths. Barbara Gordon appeared in Titans, portrayed by Savannah Welch. Barbara Lee Gordon appears in the 5th season of Gotham, portrayed by Jet Lawrence. The Batman and Robin incarnation of Mr. Freeze makes a cameo appearance in Space Jam: A New Legacy. The character of Mr. Freeze appears in Gotham, portrayed by Nathan Darrow. Birds of Prey director Kathy Yan wanted to make a sequel that could have explored the relationship between Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, with the latter meant to appear in Gotham City Sirens, until the film was put on hold. Poison Ivy appears in Gotham, portrayed by Claire Foley in the first 2 seasons, Maggie Gia in the 3rd season and first half of the 4th season, and Peyton List from then into the 5th season. 2 incarnations of Poison Ivy appear in the Batwoman TV series, portrayed by Bridget Regan and Nicole Kang, respectively. The character of Bane would appear again in film 15 years later, in 2012's The Dark Knight Rises. Batman got a reboot 8 years later in 2005, titled Batman Begins. With that being said, thanks for watching. Next time we'll be talking about Steel. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more, consider giving a like or rating and subscribing with notifications so you never miss an episode. It's free. Also feel free to check out our other episodes and share this podcast with others on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time on Movie Rewind.